It's great to be with you. I'm going to kick things off with a brief update on CPA.com activities, and then going to get into a fantastic panel discussion with Elinor and Gary. So just first off, a lot of discussion about transforming here at Council. When I think about this and our journey and where we're at right now, there's three things. One is the evolution of the practice or the finance function in companies, and really the strategies behind that. The strategies behind that are so critical, and you're going to hear about that in this panel discussion. And then secondly, the capabilities. Technology is absolutely transforming the practice of finance and accounting. So you need to understand that. Again, though, the strategies are so critical. Then finally, we've been talking a lot about talent and culture. And actually, what you'll hear today, we're going to talk about technology, client accounting services, but you're going to hear about the power of when you put it all together right, what that does for the talent equation and culture. So I'm really looking forward to this update. So first off, just a little bit about CPA.com. We're the business and technology subsidiary of the AICPA, and this is our strategic flywheel. There's three things that we're always thinking about to really empower the profession for the digital age. It starts with the ecosystem. And we've been partnering with the ecosystem for the last 10, 15 plus years. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. But that really informs us on where things are going. And the ecosystem's not just about the technology companies. I like how Anoop introduced my panelists. These are our partners, the partnership with the firms and with companies. Then we do deep dives into different technology items or emerging categories. We hold these symposiums. We have symposiums that we've been holding for the past many years on blockchain and crypto. We just launched one on ESG this year. In the early days, we were talking about cloud and AI. So we look at what these technology triggers mean. But the most important thing we do is we help transform the practice areas in the firm, and we're thinking more and more, working with Tom Hood on the finance function as well. But what we do here is we look to lead categories. We get on the field with the firms. We understand what these new capabilities mean, and we help them build strategies. So that's kind of what we're all about. So here a little bit about the ecosystem. We just held our executive roundtable, probably the 10th one we've held over the past 10 years. We've been holding this for a number of years in our New York office. And we've got great relationships with these companies. And as I said, they really inform us on where things are going. And the discussion has changed over the past many years. It's very two-way. We share where we're going. Barry Malance and Sue Coffey and others and we update them on where we're going. They appreciate that. And the dialogue with these companies has changed. Many years ago it was about, the profession's not changing fast enough. Today, it really is a dialogue. It's collaboration. And this is the broader group of companies that we're connected to. We do have some partnerships, but we're very inclusive in connecting with all of the companies. They're investing billions of dollars in transforming the practice of finance and accounting. They're playing a critical role, and this dialogue with these executives on where they're going is important. And over the past 10 years, you look at the list here, there's a lot of these companies have emerged, and they've become real mid-tier players. I can tell you a lot of interesting things are happening. We've got a lot of different categories up here. And what you're going to see in the coming years is actually there was a move. You've got the suite players. Some of these more category-based players are going to be building more and more suite capabilities to try to simplify things for firms and companies. A very dynamic group that we're very active with. As I said, the other thing that we're very, very focused on is connecting with the membership. And one of the best things over the last 2 years that came out of the pandemic, I think, is the AICPA Town Hall. And we really welcome this discussion that occurs every 2 weeks. In this dialogue, we take this dialogue in to understand the challenges that are occurring with the membership. About 75% of the attendees are from practice, about 25% are from business and industry. And you can see, and I know a lot of you attend this, the numbers keep increasing. That's because this dialogue is so important. It's important to the the members attending, and it's important to us. And I also want to appreciate the collaboration with the state societies on this. Today, we're going to be coming live from Town Hall at 3 p.m. as we always do, 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central for today's Town Hall. So here's 3 big categories that we think a lot about: accounting services, the compliance tax area, and where assurance is going. The sky's not falling. The opportunities have never been better. It's all about thinking about these technology capabilities, yes, building the right skill sets, putting the right strategies in place, and working from what you see on the historical side to today in the future. And I'm going to get into this with the panelists in a minute. But what I'm going to do right now is just set up a little bit more on one of those categories: client advisory services, or sometimes people call it client accounting services. This is the fastest growing area for firms today. And actually, for many firms, it's a must-have service, and the pandemic caused that. This is a highlight of the recent Accounting Today Top 100 report, and it shows that CAS is the top growth area. The 100th firm on this list is a firm called Your Part-Time Controller. All they focus on is a not-for-profit space. All they do is accounting services, and they grew by close to 40% last year. So the growth is very, very significant. And when you look at what's happening, and we've been on this journey for a decade plus. It started with cloud accounting, the move to the cloud, and we had a lot of discussions about moving to the cloud. That's not where it's at right now. Where it's going right now is getting much more sophisticated. It's about thinking about the pre-accounting, the accounting inputs, working with the employees, things like spend management, some really sophisticated spend management systems that are being put in place. And then, as you heard from the past panel, it's all about business intelligence, some really interesting FP&A capabilities. So we're building, expanding this ecosystem, and thinking about, and we'll get to this at the end of the presentation, how to help the firms, put the right strategies in place, get over, those blockers that impact their ability to build a truly scalable, successful practice. We're working on those. So really what CPA.com is all about today, it's not just about the technology. We wake up every day and we think about how we can help the firms with their strategies, their talent development plans, and putting in place the capabilities as efficiently as possible. So I'm going to take a seat now. I was going to have you sit down before we got into the panel, but this is perfect. You're already here. So welcome, Elinor and Gary. Let's kick this off with some introductions. So first off, Elinor, you and I have known each other for many years. Elinor Litwack, CPA, I'm going to have her describe a little bit about her role at GRF, but she was last year's Digital CPA Chair. Just got a fantastic story. I'm going to start with one of the favorite parts. Both of us have 4 kids, and they're very similar ages, 8 to 15. And Elinor actually started out, she was with a Big 4 firm, then went part-time and built up the CAS practice at GRF, became partner, and you can look at the stats here. So, and look at all of her different leadership activities. Co-founder of Women on the Move, top 40 under 40 in 2021. Great leadership and just a great story for everything I've said in the opening about you put to place strategies, capabilities, and we're going to get into this in a little bit. You've built a great culture for your team. So welcome, Elinor, and maybe tell a little bit about your journey and your firm.
Thank you, Eric. It's an honor to be here at Council. As Eric said, I'm with GRF, CPAs and Advisors. We're headquartered in Bethesda, Maryland, so shout out to the Maryland table over there. I've been with the firm for 15 years. I started as an associate, and I was always on the CAS side. It was actually happenstance for me. It was pretty much the only role in the profession that allowed me to be part-time. I had a 5-month-old at the time, my first kid, and I had a full-time offer on the table from one of the big four to be a full-time auditor. But you know, I got married, the baby came along, and I just didn't see myself not only as an auditor, but a big four auditor, and being able to take care of the family and like lead the life that I want. So I came along into this CAS practice, which at the time was client accounting. The firm has been around for 40 years, and we've always had a client accounting department. So back then there were 7 of us, and we were doing, you know, cutting payroll, checks on site at the client, updating their QuickBooks files, giving them reports. And that was pretty much how, like, the main core of what we did for many years. And as the CAS industry started to grow, we realized that the demand for our services just kept coming in and growing, and there was this huge opportunity to reimagine what we're doing, what's the value add in our deliverable, and how could we join this industry growth. I guess it was about 6-7 years ago, we tuned into the CPA.com resources, the workshop, the digital CPA community, and started just re-strategizing and realizing how big outsourced accounting is becoming, particularly in the nonprofit industry, which is the niche that we work with, and sort of leaning into that. So it's been a wonderful journey, and that's pretty much how our CAS evolved into what we like to call CAS 2.0 today.
Well, thank you, and you've been a great leader for us. So let's introduce Gary, then we're going to get into some additional insights. So Gary, it's been a pleasure getting to know you over the many past years. Gary actually we always have firm panels at our executive roundtables. In 2018, Gary was at that meeting. One thing we call that meeting is the Davos of accounting. Those companies, it's a must-attend event for them. So Gary was there, but Gary's got a really interesting story about how he has developed his firm CRC, and also Gary is part of the AICPA Leadership Academy. I know many of you know Gary. So welcome, and tell us, you know, I won't steal any of your thunder, but how you went about creating your practice.
Thank you, Eric. It's great to be at council. I just want to acknowledge that my friend Elinor and here, we took the risk and we went for the sneaker squad
there you go.
On stage. So next time, you know,
I'm working on that.
It's a high risk to come to council and wear sneakers on stage. So
hopefully we didn't offend anyone.
Yeah, we didn't plan this, so this is good. What do I want to say about personally? A lot of our dinner talks last night we're all family people. And I find that fascinating that we're all finding joy in the profession and raising our families. I'm a new dad, expecting number 3, and at the time number 3 arrives, I will precisely have 3 under 3. So there's a lot of theme about upskilling. I'm trying to upskill my father skills, anticipating number 3. But the symbolism of, you know, becoming a dad is important to my personal story in the profession. I've been in the profession, been bleeding in the profession for 16 years. Started at a mid-size firm in our local market, 40 plus people. Where's Mike Max in the room? I'll steal his line. They trained me well enough that I could leave, but they treated me well enough that I stayed, and just had a great mentorship with the firm there. Traditional legacy firm, service lines, audit and tax. I started out in audit and worked at that firm for 8 years, but you know, like Eric's saying, when I started to learn about CAS service lines, it really it lit a fire in me. It is something that my wife actually kind of revealed in me. She said, it seems like it's such a relational service line, and that's so who you are. You're such a relational person. I can recall in the audit practice, just the restrictedness of the the PPC guide. I always felt like I was working within a box. And my partners at that firm would always compliment my passion towards writing the management letter at the end of the audit, writing the letters of recommendation at the end of the audit, because I felt like there was a free form nature to that, and I didn't feel restricted in that. And so learning that about myself and revealing that about myself, and then learning some of the CAS service lines and how much more relational they are, I really wanted to bring CAS into that firm, but it was a very successful firm in the two traditional service lines, so it was met with resistance, and the change management of that was hard. So fast forward, and I went back to my hometown and acquired a legacy tax firm, and have been on the journey of transforming that legacy tax firm into a CAS firm for the last 8 years.
Well, Gary, and what I want to just highlight for council here is just how you just hit on the purpose of what you do so well. And what I've seen with your journey, many other firms that we work closely with, is just you've put in place the right strategy, the right capabilities, and then it's like, which comes first? You know, the purpose or your delivery. And you're winning. You're out there, you're winning, you're building success with your clients. And we're talking about the talent story. The talent story, this is how the talent story is going to be solved. It's going to continue to be solved by firms and companies building real success. And with that success comes purpose, and then comes really engaged employees. And I'm sorry I didn't mention, though, I meant to mention the 3 under 3, and I think you're on the road to surpass Elinor and I with our 4, so we'll wish you well in that journey, and that's why you clearly need to be wearing sneakers.
A lot of future CPAs between the 3 of us.
A lot of future leaders, yeah.
That's exactly right, exactly right. So we did have a great discussion on family and the balance of business success and family. So we have a lot of insights at CPA.com. We've got workshops, we've got training programs, we've got our CAS 2.0 movement that I'll talk about shortly. But what I want to do is talk a little bit about some of your insights that you've developed along the way. And we are talking about CAS and technology, but you'll see here that we've got some HR and people items. So Elinor, we'll start with you to talk a little bit about, okay, you know, how have you built success?
Well, it's interesting. We lean so much on technology, and we have the resource of non-traditional staffing models, but at the end of the day, we're a people business. So like we said, we're doing the accounting for our clients, but the value and the deliverable to them is really the advisory and the strategy, and that takes the humans on our team. You can't do that any other way. So it's obviously about upskilling people, but we really need to invest in the people first, and the rest comes along. So for us, about 2 years ago, one of our managers, a rising star future partner, came to us to have a candid conversation and said, you know, I've been thinking, I just wanted to be open and let you know that I like what I do, but I don't see myself as a future partner. I just want to let you know, to make that clear, the spot is open. And we're like, what do you mean? Career advancement? You like what you do? More money? The title? It's empowering? What are you talking about? And what he said changed the trajectory of our CAS practice for the future. He told us that, you know, he loves what he does, he loves his clients, he loves the people that he works with, but he wants to be able to coach his soccer team without thinking of the work that's waiting for him at his desk and checking his phone between plays to see what came in by email. It's too much, and again, he respects the profession, but just not interested in the partner track. So for us, we're like, pump the brakes. Number one, I want that too. Number two, we have to do more than lip service in investing in the quality of life of every single person on our team. It's not about less like health and wellness programs. Eliminating burnout is maybe literally about just reducing workloads and giving them like proper bandwidth to have a great quality of life and be able to do the work that they want to do and be on the career path they want to be on, but also have a life because they'd rather do something else if they can't have that. And then number 3, as leaders, we need to do that for ourselves. So, when you have a partner that's going on vacation and they send out an email to their team saying, I'll be out next week, taking my family to Italy, but don't worry, I'm going to be checking emails and feel free to reach me anytime. What they're thinking is, wow, I'm there for my team, I'm not going to leave them hanging, if a sale comes in, I'll be there to respond. But what the team is seeing is like, that's my future. I'm going to have enough money to take the family to Italy, but I won't be able to disconnect from the work, and it's a kind of backwards. So we realize that we need to be leaders and display the behavior of just inspiring our team to want to be in our shoes one day, and we have to give them the quality of life that helps them achieve that, and do it for ourselves as well. So that was huge for us, and we prioritize, so for us it's 40-hour work weeks. For another firm it might be 45 hours or 35, but we promise our staff 40-hour work weeks. Obviously every now and then it goes a little over, but we're constantly monitoring it, and we see that that's our biggest retention strategy, and it's also a giant recruitment strategy because we're able to give that to people. So we're doing that on the CAS side. I have high hopes for tax and audit as well. I think there's ways for them to reach those goals as well, but I think it's something that we need to think about across the profession to display that behavior as leaders.
Well, I know you've got this percentage of time that's unallocated as one of the strategies on how you execute that, but maybe just a little bit more on just looking at what the product is and your advice to firms on building and scaling the practice.
Right, so where we are today with CAS across the industries, there's tons of resources out there, the CAS benchmarking survey, again, the digital CPA community, the town hall. I'm not just saying that because you're up here, those are really the resources that we use, but for anybody starting or growing a CAS practice today, you absolutely need to follow those resources because you're learning from all the hurdles that everybody else already overcame for those that have been on the journey. So that's what I would tell them, to basically be in tune to that.
Well, thanks. So let's pivot here and talk a little bit about CRC, and this kind of hits a little bit of what I just was talking about purpose, and you've got a great video on your site where you do interviews with your clients, and why don't you talk a little bit about how this all came together?
Yeah. This slide's pretty special to me. So one of our obstacles as we developed the CAS firm was internally our team wrestling with the language. And Erik kind of referenced it in the introduction of CAS. I mean, we refer to CAS in the profession as you network around and you talk with people and you say CAS. That's just everyone kind of knows similarities of what you're doing, but our team back home really wrestled with referring to themselves as an advisor. They didn't have the confidence necessarily to think of themselves in that way. And so what we did, we put a lot of energy into a video that's on our homepage, and through those client testimonials, we had a lot of B-roll audio. And so at a team retreat, what I did was I just played that B-roll, that audio from those recordings, and I just asked the team to jot down the words that they heard our clients describe us as. And these were some of the most frequently ones that the team acknowledged in those interviews. And it was a really powerful moment for our team coming out of that retreat to really dive into this CAS and really have confidence that we were already doing it and our clients were already seeing us do it. We just had to put a package around it and label it into our service plans. And so that's what we call, all the part of our secret sauce is our subscription model with our clients, and we refer to them as service plans. And so they go through that service plan on a subscription model, and it's not a preset order of deliverables. It's more about productizing our expertise and making that. It's more about the pricing strategy behind that. I think the profession has a problem with the pricing strategy. If you study the client experience at all in the profession for firms, it's this really awkward and ineffective buying of your expertise when you sell it in an incremental quarter hour at a time or an incremental hour of a time. And I think if you put yourself in the client's shoes, they don't know how to buy from you. And so if you build in that expertise into a subscription model, it makes it easier for the client to buy it from you.
Well, Gary, there's some additional insights that I want to ask you about, but I completely agree with kind of how you're thinking about, and you and I have had a lot of discussions about this, on how you're packaging this service delivery to your clients. There's so much that comes into the evolution of your practice, the evolution of your strategies. As I was saying, it's about the capabilities, but it's a mind shift change. It's a business model change. It's a pricing change. And one thing I want to let council know is that we're still in the early stages. We're still in the early stages of this movement. In 5 years, every small business, maybe it's sooner, maybe it's a little bit later, will ask the question, like they asked the question today of payroll: should I outsource my accounting services to a firm like this, or should I have a staff, a small finance staff? So this is something that is the fastest growing. It's probably going to stay the fastest growing for a number of years. And what you're hearing here today is just kind of where we're at in this journey. We're at a great spot, but we've got a ways to go. So maybe some additional insights as you look at the way you built out your practice and why many other small firms are still not adopting CAS. And one thing I'll say is digital CPA is about the progressive firm. Firms of all sizes, we got top 100 firms there, and we have small firms. But we can talk a little bit about the small firm kind of environment with you.
Yeah, I think there's so much there, but similar to Elinor, I think what I hope that our model provides to the profession and to the optics externally to the profession, specifically the recruiting, like Elinor's referring to, this new model is a whole new recruiting pitch. And that's what I hope in the small firm environment we're able to inspire people to do is, I'm a recovering, overworking CPA, and I don't want the next generation to experience the profession the same way that I did in my first 8 years. I want to, because they're just, like you guys were talking about these last couple of days, they're just not going for it. The next generation is not going to go for it. So the more we change the models of our firms, the more we'll have success in recruiting that. And when I think of CAS, to me, we have to be very cautious to protect it. It's this new service line. The statistics are great on the growth, but the income tax preparation has been a 100-year-old service model, and there's been some commoditization in that 100-year service model. And so as a collective group of professionals trying to reimagine our profession and these models of firms, when you see CFO in a box for $100 a month, attack that. That's not possible. In these models, if we allow that type of modeling that's going to result in overworking to meet the expectations of a CFO in a box for $100 a month, we're going to be on the great race to zero in the CAS service line, like other service lines. So I do think it's valuable when we think of CAS to protect the brand of CAS, whatever you call it, whatever the acronym stands for you. Maybe you're like my team or my clients, and you refer to it in those other words. Language is important, But whatever you call it, whatever you refer to it as, I think it's important that we protect the brand as a profession and not let it get watered down.
Well, thanks, Karen. I actually clicked to this slide as you were discussing because I couldn't agree more with well, you're stating that we need to make sure the profession is the leader here in the CAS category. And we do a benchmarking survey, and we know actually that non-CPA firms at times are growing faster than CPA firms. So you need to think about what is being delivered. The last thing you want to do is go compete at the very transactional low end. And this is a very well thought out maturity model that we've been working on for many years. And it shows, the financial CAS to business insights CAS. And in some ways, you could say, the financial CAS is 1.0, business insight CAS is 2.0. We don't need to get too caught up in labels. But and it's okay just to be doing the financial CAS right now, which is just the accounting, the monthly closes, the financial metrics, and for some clients, that could be the right service. But there's no question as you go up this maturity model to the business insight side, and we'll talk about this a little bit deeper in the next slide. You get into the industry specifics. It's no accident that these firms are both focusing on particular niches, and that I highlighted the top 100 firm that just grew at like 40%, and all they're doing is CAS practice. So, and what they're in this business insights category, the virtual CFO. So why don't we just talk a little bit more about this, Elinor? This is something you've been on this journey. You were there in the early stages, financial CAS. You're going to business insights CAS. You're doing exciting things, I think, that motivate your employees, such as even the rollout, new category that we're thinking about in spend management.
Yeah. And that's the part of advisory that we need to remember is it's not just the strategic advisory and what's going on with the industry and knowing our clients inside and out. It's also staying on top of technology. They don't have the resources to do that. So we're heavily in that world, and we come to them proactively with something as powerful as like Divvy, the spend management tool that we're recommending. And that is a big piece of advisory as well. We're automating their systems, we're making their lives easier, and happens to be ours as well. But the staying in tune with the tech world and having, it's important to have a dedicated tech stack, but also have an eye open and have a constant evaluation of what else is on the horizon, such as spend management tools.
So and this is kind of the fundamentals of our workshops, and there's just, as I said, there's just a lot of training that goes into building a successful practice, and even as you're moving into a new category, if it's financial planning and analysis, it's and we're working again on the skill set journey. Khalil Marib and Tom Hood are partnering there to say, okay, there's a lot of similarities on what's going on in transformation and finance as you think about the evolution of the CAS practice. So how are you thinking about your skill set evolution in your firm?
Yeah, sometimes, my team, when we talk about this type of modeling, we have to really zoom out, and again, small firm versus large firm perspectives, I think, are important in the CAS modeling. I feel like the biggest advisory level question that firms can be asking of their clients, and we ask this every year as we do a service plan renewal: what are we not doing for you that you wish we could? And the more we've asked that question, the more we've learned these types of models. They don't, again, language is important, they don't call them the same as we would call them in the profession in a model like this. But the outcomes that they desire from their relationship, from their trusted advisor, can be baked into this model. And so that's where we've had success, not trying to do all of this at one time, but in the renewal process of our service plans, getting that feedback, communicating with your clients, communication. Ask them, we call it the advisor question. Ask them the advisor question: what are we not doing for you that you wish we could? Get their feedback, it might be one of the things in this model.
Well, that's a great question. And this slide here kind of highlights, what are we not doing for you? And this is what we're undertaking, this movement, CAS 2.0, which is as significant as when we said with cloud accounting, you will be able to build out this accounting services line, and you always have to have an acronym, and three-letter acronyms really work, so that's why we created CAS. But in firms they absolutely should be describing their service as it really kind of identifies with their clients in the special way both GRF and CRC are doing. But this slide here shows a little bit of the roadmap on how to really build the ultimate CAS practice. And we're talking to firms of all sizes and saying there's no reason why your CAS practice should not be equal to the size of your assurance and tax practices. We're talking to top 50 firms saying, let's build a roadmap so you can have a $300, $400, $500 million practice here. And they're on board with that. So we're working on a lot of methodology around this. When we don't have this slide here today, but when we think about CAS 2.0, we think about the strategy and governance component. Very, very important. How you, in a larger firm, how you work in strategy and governance. How are you working your tech stack? That makes sense. How are you doing the basic delivery of the service? That's another area. And then the scalability and the repeatability of the practice area. So what I want to do here is we're coming to a close and want to give us an opportunity just to share some closing remarks. But I always, in past council presentations, I've said there's never been a better time for doing what we're doing. That's absolutely right. And we in some ways, we feel like we're in the golden era of the trusted advisor. The pandemic demonstrated the critical role of the firm for Main Street. The opportunities have never been better here. We've got client advisory services highlighted. Thrilled to be working with Sue Coffey and many, many others on the audit solution. That's going to be transformative. The modern auditor is going to have capabilities that are really, really going to help motivate them and engage them around providing better services to their clients. The life planning category, here's another one that we're thinking about, risk advisory services and what's going on in the SOC category. So there's really unlimited opportunities. You'd need, though, to have the right strategies. And what you've heard here from these two leaders is how they've thought about it in a rational way, an intentional way, so they could do this with their staff and do that in a way that balances all the opportunity with the work-life balance. So I could sit up here all day with you, but our time is coming to an end, so let you kind of give everybody some closing reflections.
So, we mentioned pricing a few times. I think that is such a huge part of the strategy, not just in terms of generating revenues, but in terms of protecting the quality of life. If your revenue is tied to hours that are put in, then you don't have motivation to be more efficient or give people more bandwidth or use technology. So pricing is just so huge, whether you're doing what Gary's doing, which is subscription billing, or value pricing. If you move away from the billable hour, there's just so much potential in being able to do all these key points in your strategy along the way. It's more than just the pricing leads to the revenue. It's also about the team, the pipeline, the future of the profession, and all of that.
I love that so much. I love that life planning is on here. I mean, we'll end where we started, right? I mean, that is for the profession as a whole to be talking about life planning as a part. That's where you're going to get the attraction in the pipeline that you want, because that's a critical part.
Well, thank you for your collaboration, your friendship, and look forward to continuing the journey with you. Thank you very much, Council.
Thank you.